Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have always striven for accuracy in making allegations. I was truly disappointed to read a local newspaper teaser yesterday and the Vindicator today, where the reporter wrote in pertinent part, Gaines is perhaps best known for two things: being shot in a failed attempt to prevent me from taking office and being sued by a former assistant prosecutor. I feel compelled to respond to that opinion, as well as the article appearing in today's paper. I will not be known for a lawsuit where the allegations were never proven and it was dismissed by insurance counsel, settled by the insurance counsel. However, I will be known for what has been proven during my 26-year career as Mahoning County prosecutor. I ran for prosecutor because no other attorney would. I ran because the homicide and felonious assault rates in Mahoning County were through the roof, and clients had told me that murders were being fixed through the prosecutor's office. For example, in 1996, the year I was elected, there were 62 homicides, and I was almost number 63. The attempt on my life was due to my refusal to accept bribes from organized crime. Despite the attempt on my life, I did not quit. And I left my name in the phone book so I could be accessible to the people I serve. Consequently, 3 months after my shooting, I received a telephone call at my home at 11:30 p.m. at night. The caller provided me with the information which led to the convictions of over 70 local individuals, including, but not limited to, the following elected officials in 1988 and 1999. Among others, Mahoning County Sheriff, Mahoning County Prosecutor, my predecessor who was fixing cases, Mahoning County Engineer, as well as numerous attorneys, judges, law enforcement officers, contractors, and many others. I tore the for sale sign down from the prosecutor's office, and I hired extremely competent and honest assistant prosecutors in the criminal division. The homicides and felonious assaults decreased considerably the first year of my term and have declined to the point where they are today. Before I took office, the townships and the various Mahoning County boards spent hundreds of thousands of dollars yearly on outside counsel fees. Under my leadership, I put together a staff of top-notch civil attorneys, and I am proud to say that the Mahoning County Prosecutor's Office represents every board in Mahoning County and every township in Mahoning County, thereby saving hundreds of thousands of dollars annually in outside counsel fees. My staff has provided invaluable service to the Mahoning County Land Bank, resulting in the destruction of blighted properties and increasing the quality of life for those people living in neighborhoods that are affected by abandoned properties. I have always put aside my personal feelings in performing my statutory duties, and I've treated all statutory clients, litigants, attorneys, and I believe members of the media fairly and impartially. And last but not least, I will be remembered for standing up to powerful politicians, special interests, and criminals, putting my duty as Mahoning County prosecutor before my personal interest and, as proven, my personal safety. I believe those are the proven facts for which I will be remembered. I can answer your questions.
Can you, for the record, kind of explain your plans for the rest of your term? Since it's been reported, but not coming from your own lips.
I'm going to continue to work to perform my duties. Of course, I've got to clear out my personal items from the office, but for the next, 2 weeks, I'll continue to work.
But you plan now to retire
November, at
this
the end of
month.
November, yes, November 30th will be my last day. I will have 40 years in the system, Jerry, on November 30th.
And that's why that date. We were wondering why.
Well,
Basically, you're giving 2 weeks' notice
Yeah,
without being euphemistic, but why that date as opposed to the end of the year or another?
because that's the date I decided to go. That's all. It could have been that. It could have been December 31st. It could have been December 30th. But I'll have 4 years on November 30th. So 40 years, I'm sorry. So I decided to go a month early into my near the end of my 26th year. 26 years ahead.
Okay.
Have you recommended, because I know the way the succession works, the commissioners appoint an interim and then the party chooses. Are you recommending anyone?
If the law called for me to make a recommendation, I would do so. It does not call for me. The law calls for the county commissioners, a separate division, checks and balances, which is what our government's made up of, to make the interim appointment. If they want my opinion, I'll be more than happy to give it to them.
Would you give it to us?
No. We're here to talk about.
That's what we're getting at. That's what we were asking.
We're here to talk about my retirement. So,
Right.
we're not here to talk about who's going to replace me or unproven allegations in a lawsuit that was settled with no ambition of liability.
What's next for you? What are you going to do?
I don't know. I know I have to remodel my house. I intend to do some traveling. Of course, you all know that I love riding motorcycles, so I will be doing some of that. And I'll still have my law license, so if I choose to do something as a lawyer, I might. I don't know, because I don't know what it's going to be like, Matt, because I've never been unemployed for any period of time since I was 14. I mean, I started working at 14, sweeping the stairs at Ursuline High School to pay my tuition. So I've always been employed since I was 14 years of age, and I'm now 71.
You said you've done 40 years in the system. Was there anything that led you to start thinking about retirement? Like, what was the day that it dawned on you, maybe I should take some time for myself?
Reading the obituaries, seeing friends that are my age and younger dying. And I'm healthy, and I want to enjoy my life a little bit without the burden of the office. And look, Mahoning County Prosecutor's Office, my job as Mahoning County Prosecutor is probably the hardest job I've ever had. It's harder than being a police officer, harder than being a steel worker, harder than being a photographer in the Air Force, which is what I was. It's the hardest job I've ever had. Very rewarding, and believe me, I am so appreciative of the voters of Mahoning County for giving me the opportunity to serve. But it's difficult, and I'm 71 years old, and I want to kind of move on a little bit. I'll still be here if anyone wants my advice, but that's going to be up to them.
Over the years, it always seems, and you mentioned in your remarks, standing up to politicians. You always had, with few exceptions, you always were primary by your own party.
Yes. I received a phone call today from a former chairman who actually mentioned that my own party was always opposed to me until basically 2020, when I received the first endorsement ever. But yeah, that's true.
How did that, I mean, as you said, this was the hardest job you've ever had. When your own party doesn't necessarily endorse you, did that make the job harder?
Well, of course, it made it more difficult. But again, that's why I stood up to those politicians. They were not endorsing me, in my opinion, for honorable reasons. They were endorsing me because they wanted somebody who they could control. They're not going to control me. Nobody's going to control me. I will do what I think is right. I always have, and I always will. And I think I demonstrated that, and I believe that that's been proven by my record of service as Mahoning County Prosecutor. And like I said, we came in, nobody ever paid attention to the civil end of this office. And I made that a focus, because I knew that the criminal end, my criminal lawyers are going to do their jobs. The staff that I hired when I came in and the staff that I have today are extremely competent and think they're top-notch lawyers. I'll put my office against any prosecutor's office in the state of Ohio. And the same holds true with the civil division. And I've always maintained for years that the true corruption, the more lucrative corruption, is in the civil side of the office, in the contracts where you're paying for 2 inches of asphalt and you get a 1/4 inch. And that was occurring, Jerry. As you know, Matt, I think you were here back then too. And that's why I also put my focus on the civil division. I was criticized for that by people, but I continued to do it because I thought it was the right thing to do. And it turned out it was, because so many people have gone to prison over the bribery and the case fixing and basically the contractor bribery.
That phone call that you got in
Yes.
early '97
Yes.
literally, I guess in many ways, led to the downfall of the mob in this area,
It did.
which is part of, I guess, your legacy in this office, right?
That phone call from that young woman who was dating one of the killers of Ernie Biandello, one of the ones, because there were 6 or 7 of them that were contracted to shoot me. And at various times they were stalking me during that time period when I was actually hearing of the threats. And unfortunately, the night that I was shot, I actually decided on my own, with no evidence, this is garbage, nothing's going to happen to me. Well, how wrong I was. But that phone call, and then she was on the phone with me for over 3 hours, and I convinced her to give me a contact number. She is the first person that came up with the Ernie Biandello ring, the EB ring. She knew things about my shooting that nobody could have known. And just talking about it today sends tingling up my spine. And the fact of the matter is that had it not been for her calling me, I don't know what would have ever happened. Because that's what broke it open. And when that was on a Wednesday night that she called me. On Friday morning, the BCI agents, who Betty Montgomery, the Attorney General at the time, had assigned to me, were over at the Youngstown Police Department talking to Chief of Detectives Robert Kane. You remember Bobby Kane. And they mentioned the EB ring to him. And he said, yeah, we got the family, Biandello's family lawyer came in and claimed that this ring had been stolen with the Gary EB and diamonds. We thought it was just an insurance thing, for lack of a better term. And told them to go make a report. Well, when they pulled the report, it was exactly as she had described it. And they located the ring. It had already been melted down. But they located the paperwork where George Wilkins had actually pawned the ring in the Pittsburgh pawn shop. But she told me they had passed it around. It was a trophy. They were all wearing it at one point or another. It was a trophy for Biandello's claim. That's the kind of people that were after me. That's the kind of people that shot an innocent lawyer to get a continuance. That's the kind of people we were dealing with in 1996. And that is why I ran. And like I said, I ran because nobody else would. And believe me, I approached people to run. People that I thought were far more electable than me. And they all said no. But I felt that somebody had to do something. And that, I would hope, would be my legacy.
Now you, and I don't know specifically the history, but my guess is you're one of the longest serving prosecutors
I
in
am.
the county's history. Did you ever envision in 1996, when you decided you wanted to run, that you would still be here coming up on 26 years, knowing that nobody else before you had?
I felt I was always concerned because I always had an opponent. So I never made any long-term plans. I mean, I didn't remodel my house. I didn't spend the money because I felt I might need it to be reelected. As you know, I had some huge personal bills regarding my mother back then, and so I could never really plan or save. And every 4 years I had an opponent, so I had to really focus on being reelected. Had I lost one of those elections, I would have gone out and practiced law. And believe me, guys, I wasn't making $1 million when I was a lawyer, but I was doing very well. I had a good, lucrative practice. My practice was in federal court and state courts. I was on the CJA panel. And I made a good living. But I didn't run for this position because I wanted to be a powerful politician. I didn't run for this position because I wanted to be the county prosecutor. I ran for this position because I felt that somebody had to stand up and do something, had to stop this case fixing that my clients told me had been going on, where you're paying $10,000 to buy your way out of a murder. And people were dying on the streets over that. I don't know how many lives were saved because I took that man out of office. And I don't know how many lives were saved because I survived that shooting. But I suspect there were many, as evidenced by all of the figures, the statistics that show the decrease since I took office.
And you had an opponent in every cycle but one, right?
Every cycle except 2016. That was the only time I was unopposed. And yes, I had an opponent, and most of them, and they were supported by the hierarchy in my party. People that some of whom that I thought were friends and I actually respected, that were in office, and that I come to find out, no, they didn't deserve my respect. You know, this office has cost me friendships. People that I thought were honest that weren't, and that demonstrated their lack of integrity, particularly back in when we acquired the Oak Hill building, things of that nature. And I could have brought in outside counsel and maybe saved myself from a well-funded opponent in 2008, but I didn't, because it was my job to defend this county, and I am not going to abdicate my job for political reasons. I will do it for ethical reasons, but I will not do it for political reasons. I will not do it to feather my own nest politically or personally, and I didn't do that. So I am proud that I have served this county, and I believe that I have served this county the best I could, and as God has given fit to show me how to serve this county. And I'm proud of that. And I believe that is what I will be best remembered for, and everything I have said are proven facts, not unproven allegations in a complaint that was settled. So, anything else?
The only thing you don't want to talk about whether or not you have suggested anyone or have.
Jerry.
If you have, do you think, as you said, you've created an excellent staff?
That's right.
Do you believe that come December 1st, this office will still be, without you necessarily being here, still be in good hands?
I certainly hope so. But that's up to the commissioners. That's the law. That's what's required. If I could appoint my successor, believe me, I'd be more than happy to. But I can't. So I'm not going to discuss that. We just follow the law, Jerry. You know that. And that's what I've always told my assistant prosecutors. And even the vindicators are aware of that. Follow the law. Regardless of the consequences, follow the law. That's my job. And like I said, I've made enemies, lost friends because of that. But I cannot not follow the law in order to maintain a friendship. Yeah, Mr.
Can you
Runyon.
explain how the commissioner part works? The
commissioners will meet and they will appoint what they call an acting prosecuting attorney,
okay.
who will take office on December 1st, because my resignation, my retirement will be effective on 11:59 p.m. on the 30th. They appoint the acting interim prosecutor. Then, because I'm a member of the Democratic Party, the Democratic Precinct Committee people will meet presumably sometime in the end of December, sometime in January, and they will vote to appoint the Democrat who would fill my unexpired term. That's the law. If you want the statutes, I'd be more than happy to give them to you.
Are you at all concerned over who commissioners might name to fill in that space, or who the party will name in your place to fill out the next however long it is, years, until the end of 24?
Well, obviously, I hope that they appoint somebody who is honest, somebody who will maintain the continuity of this office. I mean, does anybody have any complaints about this office? I don't believe so. I don't hear them if they do. But again, Jerry, I've got to let the system work. Look, I'm not going to walk in like maybe a president might try, as we had one who did, to try to run the place without following the law. We follow the law here. whether I like it or not. So I guess, like Forrest Gump, that's all I can say about that. I'm going to miss you guys. Of course, there are a lot of reporters here that I'm not going to see, but no, but I mean, really, that I will miss. I've always enjoyed trying to educate reporters in the law, and the only thing I want to strive is, and I should not even say this because I certainly shouldn't tell you guys how to do your jobs, but what I want to remind you and the public is that you reporters, the media, whether it's the print media or the electronic media, are so important in maintaining our democracy and in keeping elected officials honest and in reporting and discovering their misdeeds. And God, we've had so many. And unfortunately, in my tenure, we've had probate judge, God, so many of people that I thought were friends that just disappointed me and broke the law and had to be prosecuted under my tenure, or during my tenure, rather. So, but I'm not leaving town, so I'll still be around.
Who was the lawyer that was shot for the, you said, somebody was shot for?
Mr. Van Brocklin,
That
who
was
was
Van
shot in the
Brocklin.
knee. Yes, it's in your
Right.
archives.
Okay. Yeah, I just needed to connect the dots there.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it just I don't know if I like naming him because I don't know
Right.
if Gary likes being named, but he's an innocent lawyer that gets shot for a continuance. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, thank God that young woman called me at home, and thank God I answered the phone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck in your retirement.
I'll be around.